Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So the purport Prabhupada is writing. A truly Krishna conscious person, always absorbed in transcendence, in constant undisturbed meditation on his worshipable Lord, is as steady as a lamp in a windless place. Yeah. So in the next verses, set of verses, 4 verses, uh, Krishna is describing the type of consciousness and the type of happiness one experiences when one achieves perfection in yoga. So initially, Krishna is describing the process and the type of happiness one achieves at the perfection. So then, after that, Krishna explains the challenges in the process and how to encounter each of them. Yeah. Okay, so to save time, we will recite it together. यत्रोपरमते चित्तं निरुद्धं योगसेवया यत्र चैवात्मानात्मानं पश्यन् आत्मनि तुष्यति सुखम् आत्यन्तिकं यत्तत् बुद्धिग्राह्यमतीन्द्रियं वेत्ति यत्र न चैवायं स्थितश्चलति तत्त्वता यं लब्ध्वा च परं लाभं मन्यते नाधिकं ततः यस्मिन् स्थितो न दुःखेन गुरुणापि विचाल्यते तं विद्यत् दुःखसंयोगं वियोगं योगसंयुतम्. Yeah. Okay, the translation is, in the stage of perfection called trance or samadhi, one's mind is completely restrained from material mental activities by practice of yoga. This perfection is characterized by one's ability to see the self by the pure mind and to relish and rejoice in the self. In that joy state, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness realized through transcendental senses. Established thus, one never departs from the truth, and upon gaining this, he thinks there is no greater gain. Being situated in such a position, one is never shaken, even in the midst of the greatest difficulty. This indeed is actual freedom from all miseries arising from material contact. Okay, so we'll try to study the concepts and then we'll study the purport. Okay, so initially it is consciousness. Okay. So the consciousness is initially chittam. So that is denoted by chittam. So it is blissful, uparamate. Initially, so for a perfect yogi, his consciousness is blissful. It's not consciousness is just like dry or no. Yeah. And it is freed from matter. Freed from matter means niruddham. And then it is satisfied in Paramatma only. Atmani eva tushyate. So this is the consciousness of the perfect yogi. So consciousness is like fully focused on. So it is samadhi. So samadhi means what? Consciousness is not flowing through the body. So the symptom of Atma is consciousness. So consciousness is directly absorbed in the transcendental world. So yeah, when in the wakeful state, the consciousness flows through the body and to the external world. Means it goes through the subtle body and it goes through the external world. But in the in the dream state, what happens? In the dream state, consciousness only goes to the subtle body. So there are dreams and all, but there is no. It does not go to the outside world. And in deep sleep state, consciousness is not active. But in the samadhi state, consciousness goes to the transcendence. Yeah. So that is what is being described here. So a yogi in a perfected state, he takes the darshan of the Paramatma. In Bhagavatam, second canto and even third canto also, so that the different features of the Paramatma are described. Even in 8th chapter also there is a description of Paramatma. So his form and all. So yeah. Okay. And the nature of happiness, Sukham, is it is beyond material senses. It is atindriyam. So it's not material happiness. It is beyond the material senses. Means the happiness is not based on the material senses. That's what, as discussed earlier, the samadhi, the consciousness is connected to the transcendental world, not to the uh, transcendence, not to the body, external body. And then it is experienced by transcendental intelligence, buddhigrahyam. Again, this is not material intelligence, but it is buddhigrahyam. Then it is unlimited. Of course, yeah, one thing is, again, Paramatma. So this Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagavan. So uh, now, so in the Brahman, Sat feature is manifested. So one experiences that eternality of Brahman, Brahma Jyoti, and Paramatma, Sat and Chit. So one understands through one's transcendental intelligence that he is an eternal entity and he is conscious of me. Chittam means he had chitta, means he also has consciousness. But in Bhagavan feature, the Ananda part is also there. Means one can experience the pastimes with the Lord, and the Paramatma, there are no pastimes. Only he is just observing. Means you understand that he's a conscious being and he is conscious of you. That feeling, that experience one gets. Yeah. Then it is unlimited. So the happiness is unlimited. Atyantikam. Then one is fully satiated. Veti na yatra means, so one is fully satiated. He does not need anything else. And the happiness Sukham is not disturbed by anything. Guru napi na vichalyate. So nothing in this world, no happiness, no event in this world no disturbs that happiness. So we can see how Prabhupada was undisturbed, amidst so many heart attacks and so many hardships on Jaladuta. And we can also see Narad Muni, when that Narada child, that when his mother dies, was bitten by a snake and all, he does not get disturbed, but continues with his devotional service. So like that, there are different examples. Okay. Okay, maybe I think. Kishore Madhaprabhu, can you read the purport?
Yeah, yes, Prabhu. By practice of yoga, one becomes gradually detached from material concepts. This is the primary characteristics of the yoga principle. And after this, one becomes situated in trance or samadhi, which means that the yogi realizes the supersoul through transcendental mind and intelligence without any of the misgiving of identifying the self with superself. Yoga practice is more or less based on the principles of Patanjali system. Some unauthorized commentators try to identify the individual soul with the super soul, and the monists think that this is to be liberation. But they do not understand the real purpose of the Patanjali system of yoga. There is an acceptance of transcendental pleasure in the Patanjali system, but the monists do not accept the transcendental pleasure out of fear of jeopardizing the theory of oneness. The duality of knowledge and the knowers is not accepted by the non-dualist. But in this verse, transcendental pleasure realized through transcendental senses is accepted.
Yeah.
And this is corroborated by Patanjali Muni, the famous exponent of yoga system. The great sage declares in his Yoga Sutra 4.34, पुरुषार्थ संयम गुणः प्रतिरसवः कैवल्यम स्वरूप प्रतिष्ठा वा चित्त शक्ति इति.
Yeah. So just a minute. So the pleasure. So if there is oneness, means if one has merged with Brahman, so there is no duality. So to experience pleasure, one needs duality, or one needs a relationship. But if there is oneness, then there is no concept of pleasure arising. So that's what Prabhupada is saying, that the impersonalists and all, they don't accept this point in the Patanjali Sutra. Prabhupada has quoted one statement from Patanjali Sutra, where Patanjali also indicates the pleasure one experiences at when one has perfected dhyana yoga. So there is duality even at samadhi level. So if there is non-duality or oneness, then there is no possibility of pleasure. So one needs a relationship. Then only one can have pleasure. Okay, Pro. So now Prabhupada is going to explain some aspects of this statement. Yes, Pro, you can continue. The Chit Shakti.
This Chit Shakti or internal potency is transcendental. Purusharth means material religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and at the end, the attempt to become one with the Supreme. This oneness with the Supreme is called Kaivalyam by the monist. But according to Patanjali, this Kaivalyam is an internal or transcendental potency by which the living entity becomes aware of its constitutional position. In the words of Lord Chaitanya, this state of aware is called Cheto Darpana Marjanam, CC Anta 20.12, or clearance of the impure mirror of the mind. This clearance is actually liberation or Bhav Mahadavagni Nirvapanam. The theory of nirvana also preliminary corresponds with this principle in the Bhagavatam 2.10.6. This is called Swarupena Vyavastitaha. The Bhagavad Gita also confirms this situation in this verse.
Okay, so just a minute. So, yeah, here Prabhupada is saying that Purushartha Sunya means he is bereft, means he is not attached to the happiness of based on the Purusharthas. Purusharthas are Dharmartha, and Kama. So, these means that happiness is not dependent on these three activities, and it is Kaivalyam, but Kaivalyam also it is being defined that it is Swarupa Pratishta and all. So Prabhupada is explaining that Swarupena Vyavasthiti. Yes, Prabhu, you can continue. After Nirvana or
After nirvana or material cessation, there is the manifestation of spiritual activities or devotional service to the Lord, known as Krishna consciousness. In the words of Bhagavatam, Swarupena Vyavasthita, this is the real life of the living entity. Maya or illusion is the condition of the spiritual life contaminated by the material infection. Liberation from the material infection does not mean destruction of the original eternal position of the living entity. Patanjali also accepts this by his words Kaivalyam Swarupena Pratishtha Chit
Vach.
Shaktir Iti. Yeah, there's a cursor, so I couldn't read. This Chit Shakti or transcendental pleasure is real life. This is confirmed in the Vedanta Sutra 1.1.12 as Anandamaya Bhashat. This natural transcendental pleasure is the ultimate goal of yoga and is easily achieved by execution of devotional service or bhakti yoga. Bhakti yoga will be vividly described later, beginning in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Should I pause or continue?
No, you can continue.
In the yoga system, as described in this chapter, there are two kinds of samadhi called Samprajitna Samadhi and
Sampragyata.
Sampragyata Samadhi
Hmm.
and Asampragyat Samadhi. When one becomes situated in the transcendental position by various philosophical researches, he is said to have achieved Samprangata Samadhi. In the Asamprangata Samadhi, there is no longer any connection with mundane pleasure, or one is then transcendental to all sorts of happiness derived from the senses. When the yogi is once situated in that transcendental position, he is never shaken from it. Unless the yogi is able to reach this position, he is unsuccessful. Today's so-called yoga practice, which involves various sense pleasure, is contradictory. A yogi indulging in sex and intoxication is the mockery. Even those yogis who are attracted by the siddhis of perfection in the process of yoga are not perfectly situated. If yogis are attracted by the products of yoga, then they cannot
Byproducts.
attain the stage of perfection. And it's stated in this verse. Person therefore indulging in the makeshift practice of gymnastic feats or siddhis should know that the aim of yoga is lost in that way.
Okay, yeah. So Sampragyata Samadhi means one is trying to focus on some forms, like on some material forms. It can be also the form of deity or something. But asampragyatas or some yantra and all, or some light. So different things, different kinds of practice are there. There is also the Tratak meditation. One can visualize the mantra and one can chant. So this is all you can term it as sampragyata samadhi. But asampragyata means once samadhi is not, one is not focusing on these material entities, but one is full focusing on a transcendental no object. So one has that revelation of Paramatma or some other things. So uh, so that so that is called asampragyat samadhi. So yeah. So then Prabhupada is explaining that means this asampragyat samadhi is the perfection of yoga, but those current now yoga practices and all, they focus on the byproducts like health and other things. So that is not proper. Okay, I'll read it now. Yeah.
Okay.
The best practice of yoga in this is Krishna consciousness, which is not baffling. A Krishna conscious person is so happy in his occupation that he does not aspire after any other happiness. There are many impediments, especially in this age of hypocrisy, to practicing Hatha Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, and Jnana Yoga. Yeah, but there is no such problem in executing Karma Yoga or Bhakti Yoga. Yeah, because it involves detachment and no, there is no activity, not much activity. So it's challenging. So that is the problem with Jnana Yoga and Hatha Yoga. As long as the material body exists, one has to meet the demands of the body, namely eating, sleeping, defending, and mating. But a person who is in pure Bhakti Yoga or in Krishna consciousness does not arouse the senses while meeting the demands of the body. Rather, he accepts the bare necessities of life, making the best use of a bad bargain, and enjoys transcendental happiness in Krishna consciousness. Yeah, then he is detached from the world. Also means Prabhupada is saying he may be externally engaged, but he's internally detached from the world. Instead of even externally trying to detach, Bhakti Yoga, both things are there. Okay, so any questions at this time on whatever we have discussed? Okay, so if there are no questions, we will proceed. So till now, what was discussed is the prescription, how the practice, how one should practice. Initially, Krishna told in around 4 verses, 5 verses, you can say, how one should practice Ashtanga Yoga, means how the place, position, and all those, and what should be the focus and all. Then, having done all this, what he should do, means what should be his engagement. He should focus on the Atma and so that initially Sada and constantly. So then he told, yeah, but still, because one is not fully able to focus, means one does not have the taste. So one also has to take care of the body mind through regulation. So this is exclusively told because one has one has disconnected from the world. Still, because he is still in bodily consciousness, he has to do it also consciously. Otherwise, in Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga, this may be taken care a little bit more naturally. Yeah. So the balance part. So then Krishna described about defined the who is a perfect yogi. He does not have his consciousness is trained and it is fixed only in Paramatma only, and he does not even have any spruha, means no, there is no propping up of material desires also. So he is perfect yogi, and then Krishna gave that analogy of that windless place, and then the description of the type of consciousness in samadhi, and also the type of happiness one experience in samadhi is described. Yeah. So yeah, it's important that we, on a regular basis or time to time, we read about the prayojana, means no, the kind of happiness one experiences, the kind of destination one is going to achieve. So then that gives a kind of impetus, or you can say motivation, no, to practice bhakti. Yeah, despite whatever challenges we are facing, and whatever limitations are there, and all that things. So for bhakti, means the prayojana are, they are nicely described, let's say in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Madhurya Kadambini. So there it's more described in a technical way. And in Bhagavatam, 10th canto and all, you can say they are described in a more descriptive, in a pastime way, narrative way and all. Yeah. Now, Krishna is going to describe the difficulties one encounters, how to deal with the difficulties, how a yogi should deal with the difficulties. Sa nishchayena yoktavyo yogo anirvinna chetasa.
सनिश्चयेन योक्तव्यो योगो निर्विण्ण चेतसा
संकल्प प्रभवान कामांस त्यक्त्वा सर्वान अशेषता.
संकल्प प्रभवान कामां त्यक्ता सर्वान् अशेषतः
मनस्येवेन्द्रियं ग्रामं विनियम्य समन्तता.
मनस्सेवे इन्द्रियं ग्रामं विनियम्य समन्तत.
Okay. Yeah, so okay, the translation goes like this. One should engage oneself in the practice of yoga with determination and faith and not be deviated from the path. One should abandon without exception all material desires born of mental speculation, thus control all the senses on sides by the mind. Yeah. So initially it is called Nischayena Yoktavyo Anirvinna Chetasa. So with faith, one should endeavor without losing hope. Nischayena. So that can happen through hearing and association. So through hearing, gradually our faith will increase, and also association. When we associate with senior devotees and all, our faith on the process in the process will increase. And sankalpa prabhavan kaman. So desires born of lust. So one has to leave them with determination. One should neglect them. Yeah, neglect is the appropriate word. So that will help. So one should practice it. So by regular practice of this, one can saying no to Maya, or you can say saying no to material desires. That one should practice it, and eventually through purification, one will get that determination. And then manasyevendriyam gramam vinimya samandata. So all senses should be engaged. So through regulation means one should learn to engage in different services so that all senses are engaged. So that way there is no chance of more distraction. Okay, so in chanting also we can these principles like so if we hear about chanting, there are different devotees like Mahatma Prabhu, Sachinandan Maharaj, even Satswarup Maharaj has written. Even there are devotees like Anandandan Prabhu, like Bhakti Bhagat Maharaj. There are different devotees who speak on Krishna and Prabhu. So when we hear about, so the faith on chanting increases, and association also, like seeing them personally, or if possible chanting with advanced devotees, senior devotees. So the faith on chanting, that helps, that nishchayena, so that faith and hope also comes, no, that okay, I can also chant, or no, that inspiration comes. Then sankalpa prabhavan kaman. So that comes by practice. So if one practices chanting 16 rounds with in one go in the early morning, in association of devotees over time, so that that experience also gives some conviction, and also through knowledge, means through intelligence. So if the knowledge intelligence is strengthened through knowledge, then also one will get that strength to say no to distractions. So different distractions that come on during chanting. And through purification, it may not happen over days, but it may take years. No? So over purification, that distractions also reduce. And while chanting also, that mind should be means one should be alert that the senses are not distracting one. So sometimes ears can be distracting because of different sounds, or some eyes can be distracting. So one should take it. So that Krishna has explained previously, that eyes should be half closed and all that. Okay. Okay. So here in purport, Prabhupada gives the example of the bird and Garuda. Okay. Bhakti Lila Mataji, can you read the purport?
Yes, Prabhuji. The yoga practitioner should be determined and should patiently prosecute the practice without deviation. One should be sure of success at the end and pursue this course with great perseverance, not becoming discharged, not
Discouraged.
becoming discouraged if there is any delay in the attainment of success. Success is sure for the rigid practitioner. Regarding Bhakti Yoga, Rupa Goswami says, one can execute the process of Bhakti Yoga successfully with full hearted enthusiasm and perseverance and determination by following the prescribed duties in the association of devotees and by engaging completely in the activities of goodness. As for determination, one should follow the example of the sparrow who lost her eggs in the waves of the ocean. The sparrow laid her eggs on the shore of the ocean, but the big ocean carried away the eggs on its way. The sparrow became very upset and asked the ocean to return her eggs. And the ocean did not even consider her appeal. So the sparrow decided to drive the ocean. She began to pick out the water in her small beak, and everyone laughed at her for her impossible determination. The news of her activity spread, and at last Garuda, the gigantic bird carrier of the Lord Vishnu, heard it. He became compassionate towards his small sister bird, and so he came to see the sparrow. And Garud was very pleased by the determination of the small sparrow, and he promised to help. Thus, Garuda at once asked the ocean to return her eggs, lest let's he himself take up the work of the sparrow. The ocean was frightened at this and returned the eggs. Thus, the sparrow became happy by the grace of Garuda.
Okay.
Similarly,
No, fine. Thank you. Yeah, so one should develop faith in the help given by the Lord. Yeah. So Prabhupada is explaining. Yeah, maybe I'll read it. So one should develop that Lord can definitely help us. So he promised Sarvadharman Parityaja and Teshamaham Samardartha Mrityu Samsara Sagarat. So that way one should develop faith on the help of the Lord, because Lord has the complete ability to help us. As in the 7th chapter you are going to read, Daivi Esha Gunamai Mama Maya Duruttaya Mameva Ye Prapadyante Maya Metam Tarantate. Okay. Similarly, the practice of yoga, especially Bhakti Yoga and Krishna consciousness, may appear to be a very difficult job. Yeah, initially it may appear very difficult job. But if anyone follows the principles with great determination, then the Lord will surely help. Yeah, here Prabhupada has written a very nice, can say, golden line. Yeah, success is sure for a rigid practitioner. Yeah. It's a very important hope-giving line. Okay, so we'll proceed to the next verse. So then Krishna is describing how slowly the mind comes in control by using intelligence. Mind slowly gets, by proper use of intelligence, mind gets controlled. Shanay Shanay Uparamed Buddhya Dhruti Grahitaya
Shana Shaner Uparmed Buddhaya Dhriti Gruhitaya
Atma Samstam Manakritva Na Kinchid Api Chintayet.
Atma Sanstamana Kritva Na Kinchit Api Chintayet.
Okay. So the translation is, gradually, step by step, one should become situated in trance by means of intelligence sustained by full conviction, and thus the mind should be fixed on the self alone and should think of nothing else. Yeah, so intelligence sustained by full conviction. So that is important. Okay, Prabhupada is also speaking on that. By proper conviction and intelligence, one should gradually cease sense activities. This is called pratyahara. The mind being controlled by conviction, meditation, and cessation from the senses should be situated in trance or samadhi. At that time, there is no longer any danger of becoming engaged in the material conception of life. In other words, although one is involved with matter, as long as the material body exists, one should not think about sense gratification. One should think of no pleasure aside from the pleasure of Supreme Self. This state is easily attained by directly practicing Krishna consciousness. Yeah, if someone can quickly share like how we can strengthen our intelligence in Krishna consciousness so that we can overcome the temptations of mind and all.
Prabhuji, by taking the shelter of Shastra.
Okay, yes, thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Prerna Mataji.
So, Prabhuji, when whatever we are hearing, we should try to apply in our practical, in a practical way in our life.
Yes.
By applying scriptural injunctions,
Yes.
to the extent we can apply practically,
Yeah.
we can sharpen our intelligence.
Yes. Thank you. And we will get the desire to further, read scripture and all when we see that things are working. Yeah. Okay, 2 more devotees will take.
Prabhuji, we can take the association or shelter of devotee who has strong intelligence.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, Kishore Mother Prabhu, last you can share.
Guru Sadhu Shastra and absolute resolution. I mean, determination.
Okay.
Absolute determination.
Okay. Yes. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. So everyone has spoken. Yeah. And also through introspection also one can do means it's just part of it, like whatever we are hearing or reading, we can introspect like how we can means in at a regular times, like whether how much we can evaluate our advancement and see what we can do, and also this regular introspection also it helps. Okay, thank you. So with this, so that's what as one does this, the intelligence gets strengthened, and with that strengthened intelligence, it becomes more and more easier to control the mind, and engage the mind in Krishna consciousness or in meditation. So the goal is not to control the mind. The goal is to engage the mind in Krishna's mind, in meditating on Krishna or God. So that becomes more easier and easier, and thus the mind becomes slowly controlled and fixed in Krishna. Yeah. Okay. So then Krishna speaks about that one has to, so with that intelligence, mind becomes controlled, but still it wavers. So the mind wavering, as Krishna explained in the 5th chapter, Shaknoti Hasodam Prakshariro Mokshana Kama Krododbhavam Megam Swayakta Susikinakam. So it will be there in some proportion, as long as the body is there. Yeah. Okay. So we will read the verse first. Recite the verse first. Yato nischalati manah chanchalam astiram.
Yato nichalati manah chanchala astiram.
Tatastato niyamyetad atmanyeva vasham nayet.
Tatastato niyama etad atman eva vasham nayet.
Okay, so from wherever the mind wanders due to its flickering and unsteady nature, so it's the nature of mind to be flickering and unsteady, one must certainly withdraw it and bring it back under the control of the self. Yeah. So the nature of the mind is flickering and unsteady, but a self-realized yogi has to control the mind. The mind should not control him. Yeah. One who controls the mind and therefore the senses as well is called Goswami or Swami, and one who is controlled by the mind is called Godas or servant of the senses. A Goswami knows the standard of sense happiness. In transcendental sense happiness, the senses are engaged in the service of Rishikesha or the supreme owner of the senses, Krishna. Serving Krishna with purified senses is called Krishna consciousness. That is the way of bringing the senses under full control. What is more is that is the highest perfection of yoga practice. Yeah. So that's what he knows. What is material happiness? That's what, as we discussed in the previous chapter, yehi samsparshaja bhoga dukkha yona evate. So understanding that, one brings back and engages the mind again back in the service of the Lord. Yeah. So if sometimes, okay, so this is a purport of Baldev Vidyabhushan. If sometimes the mind becomes disturbed by subtle sinful tendencies of previous lives, he should withdraw the mind from those thoughts. Withdrawing the mind, niyamya, pratyahara. So from whichever object the mind approaches, the yogi should make it obedient to the Atma alone. Atman Vasham Nayet. By reflecting on the intense happiness of realizing Atma. So as one knows the destination and that's what proper knowledge of Sambandha Abhideya Prayojan. So these things are there. Then it becomes easy to bring the back again to focus. Bring the mind again back to focus. Yeah. So one thing is that's what it takes time. So one has to be patient. Means as such, Bhakti Thakur says it may take 3 lifetimes. Means one life in Nama Parad, second life in Nama Bhas, and third life in Shuddha Nam. So Bhakti Thakur says like this. But yeah, it happens gradually. That's why in the verse it is there. Of course, in the previous verse it is there. Shanai Shanai means it happens slowly but it happens surely. So how it becomes easy to persevere if we have a regulated sadhana. Means it becomes habit. If then it becomes easy to persevere. If it becomes a habit, even if some days sadhana is not that good, we are not able to concentrate. But if it becomes a habit, then it becomes easy to go on. Yeah. Okay. Now, yeah, in the next 2 verses, Krishna is started now explaining at the perfection. So what is the kind of happiness and again he's going to explain, but now he's also going to explain what kind of vision he has and all. So yeah. Prashanta manasam hinam yoginam sukam uttamam.
प्रशान्तमनसं येनं योगिनं सुखम् उत्तमम्
Upaiti shanta rajasam brahma bhutam akalmasham.
उपैति शान्तरजसं ब्रह्मभूतम् अकल्मषम्.
The translation is, the yogi whose mind is fixed on me verily attains the highest perfection of transcendental happiness. He is beyond the mode of passion. He realizes his qualitative identity with the Supreme and thus he is freed from all reactions to past deeds. Yeah, Shanta Rajasam. He is freed from mode of passion. Yeah. So the mode of passion is more described elaborately in the 14th chapter. So the mode of passion is the undercurrent, like it is characterized by attraction to opposite sex and attachment to sense objects. So that is the one that agitates the mind. So goodness is mind is calm and focused. So when one practices the yoga or meditation consistently for day after day with faith and all, so then he is freed from the influence of mode of passion. And here it is there Brahma Bhutam. So Brahma Bhutam means one realizes himself as Atma. So then these qualities of Atma become manifest. Means there are 8 qualities of Atma which are described in Chandogya Upanishad, which our Acharyas mentioned. So the soul it's sinless, is ageless, it's deathless, without grief, without hunger, without thirst, blissful and fulfills his promises. So these are the qualities one realizes. So that's why we see how Prabhupada was fearless. Means even despite heart attacks and even when Prabhupada was staying in Bauri, so then even there was murder at one. Means Prabhupada was not shaken up by all these things. But Prabhupada was fearless because they are at the stage of Brahma Bhuta. Means they have realized that that they are spiritual beings and not this body. This Brahmabhuta also comes in 14th chapter. Mamchayo Vicharena Bhakti Yogena Sevate Sagunan Samatityetan Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. Then in 18th chapter also it comes Brahmabhuta Prasannatma. And then it is Akalmasham. Akalmasham means the sinful reactions are fully gone. That means the previous sinful activities are also gone. Brahma Bhuta is the state of being free from material contamination and situated in the transcendental service of the Lord. Mad Bhaktim Labate Param. So one cannot remain in the quality of Brahman, the absolute, until one's mind is fixed on the lotus feet of the Lord. Savai Mana Krishna Padara Vinde. To be always engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, or to remain in Krishna consciousness, is to be factually liberated from the mode of passion and all material contamination. Yeah, Prabhupada is making the point that yeah, it may not, means that's what, even if one realizes one as a spirit soul and not material body, but the more stable realization is one realizes oneself as a servant of the Lord. So that is a more stable situation. The 28th also it's further described. Here the happiness, the nature of happiness is also described. Yunjan evam sadatmanam yogi vigata kalmasha.
Yunjan evam sadatmanam yogi vigata kalmasha.
Sukhena brahma samsparsham atyantam sukhamashnute.
Sukhena brahma samsparsham atyantam sukham ashnute.
Yeah. So if you see in the previous chapters also, it's more described about how one is freed. In this chapter, especially the sukham is being described. Till that's what in fifth chapter and all, it's more described about that he is freed from sinful reactions. He has this knowledge and all. But now the sukham is also being described and highlighted more. Yeah. Okay. The translation is, thus, the self-controlled yogi constantly engaged in yoga practice becomes free from all material contamination, and it achieves the highest stage of perfect happiness in transcendental loving service to the Lord. Self-realization means knowing one's constitutional position in relationship to the Supreme. So, okay, the individual soul is part and parcel of the Supreme, and his position is to render transcendental service to the Lord. This transcendental contact with the Supreme is called Brahma Samsparsha. So it's an important word, means Brahma Samsparsha, means one realizes that relationship with the Lord. So it's an experience. It's not an understanding, but it's an experience. Brahma Samsparsha means sparsha. It's an experience. It's experience. Yeah. As we saw earlier also, Atyantikam Sukham. So once experienced unlimited happiness. So it is mentioned by Vishwanath Chakravarti mentions in the Bhava stage, even in Bhakti Samrat Sindhu. So at Bhava stage, one realizes this his Swarupa, and so it's when it comes to chanting, so one realizes that the holy name is not different from the Lord. So that is called Brahma Samsparsham. You can call it. So for him, the desire for liberation and all, these things become very insignificant. Okay. Okay, so from next verse, we will discuss in the next class. So there are around 47 verses. So now we have 17 plus 2, 19 verses are there. So we can, we'll complete these things in the next weekend. Okay, before we come close for today, any questions? Any questions, anything? Okay. So I will revise. I'll try to revise. Yes, Pro Kishore Madhav.
Yeah, Prabhu, when we say Brahma Samsparsham, experience of God, correct? In our
Hmm.
day-to-day life, sometimes we come across some miracle situation, something like that, correct? So some people say it is a luck, or should we say that it would be experience of God, or it's just a casual incident?
No, so is it means miracles means what? Is it like some coincidence things, or what miracles means? What?
A miracle, something suddenly good happens to us, correct?
Something suddenly good. Yeah, means that is like that can be called as arrangement by Lord. But see, this is a factual experience at the at the Atma level. Here, what Brahma Samsparsham is called. So yeah, if you are able to connect something that is happening to the Lord, to the Lord, means to the you're attributing it to the Lord and all. That is also some kind of, you can say, some experience, but here it is not exactly what this is termed as Brahma Samsparsham. Like Bhaktir Pareshana Bhavo Viraktar Anyatar. So you can say it is Pareshana Bhavo and all that. Yeah. But sometimes it can become sentimental also. But those sentiments are good. Means it's not wrong.
Sometimes we can desperately pray for something good to happen. Maybe someone is ill or something good, and that suddenly happens.
Yeah. That's okay. But one thing is, we are not fully dependent on the Lord. So that way we cannot say that no, Lord is fully taking our control. Like in the 9th chapter, it is told. That's what. Yeah. Okay, I'm forgetting that verse. So one who is fully engaged in the Lord's service, then only Lord says, no, that I will take care of him. But we are not at that level. Ananya Shintayantamam Yojana Paripasate Tesham Nityabhiptanam Yogakshemam Vahamyam. Ananya Shintayantamam. So we are not at that level. So it may be also happening by our karmic thing also. It may be happening. So we cannot say that. But if we have some sentiment and that sentiment is taking us towards Krishna consciousness, it's okay. But it should not make us unnecessarily proud or something. Yeah. But this Brahma Samsparsham is a factual experience. One experiences at very advanced stage. Yeah.
Right.
Yes, Prerna Mataji.
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes, right. You rightly said that we are not we are not completely surrendered to the Lord. So my question is, Prabhu, how can I calculate my level of surrender? What is that parameter that will give me, oh, you are surrendered to the Lord to this much extent only?
Some, of course, there are some aspects like there are books like Madhur Kadamani and Bhakti Samrat Sindhu, which describes about the different stages in devotional service. So that can help one to gauge or measure one's advancement and all. And even Harinam Chintamani book also, Bhakti Vinod Thakur gives there are different challenges. What are different challenges when a sadhaka encounters in the 3 levels of chanting, Aparadhanam, Namabhas, and Shuddhanam. So that way, these things help. And also, if we see right now, the description also, Krishna is describing some stages at least. So at least we can see that if you are following the scripture, and to what extent we are following a scripture or the instructions by the senior Vaishnavas and all, to how much extent we are following. So we can say we are progressing in that endeavor part we can see. And purification part also, as one becomes more and more situated in Sattva-guna, means the passion and ignorance have reduced. So one can become conscious of his consciousness. Sattva-guna means one can be conscious of his Krishna consciousness. So we can see also, if possible, how much to what percentage of our chanting is attentive, how much is distracted. So is it helping? Is it reducing? Like Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that for every Ekadashi we should take stock of this. Means we should have these calculations around this. And another external things also, like how much service we are contributing. So that also can help. How much time we are, like the body, mind, words. So how much time we are utilizing for service of the Lord and devotees. These also we can measure. Okay. I think.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay, thank you. Yes. So today initially we discussed about, like earlier Krishna has described about the position and place, posture and all. So then Krishna told after doing that, one should focus on the Lord. One should focus on the Atma, body, mind, words, and having the mind regulated. So that then, so while doing this, because one is still in the bodily situation, so one has to balance. So that yukta ahara vihara, so different aspects: recreation, eating, sleeping, the tendency to act, chesta and duties, the tendency to have some identity. So, no, the duties. So these things also have to be balanced. And then, so having done this, so then slowly doing this, one reaches perfection. So there is description of a perfect yogi. His consciousness is trained and he's fixed only on the Paramatma, and there is no trace of material desires. So that is the definition of a perfect yogi. Then the nature of consciousness and happiness is described there. So the happiness is beyond the material senses, and it can be perceived by, it's perceived by transcendental intelligence. And then it's told that nothing, see, he is fully satiated, he does not want anything, any severe circumstance of this world will not disturb that happiness. So these all things are discussed. So example of Narad Muni and all we took. So then after that, this is described. Then after that, the abhideya means the challenges one gets. So sa nischena yoktavyo. So faith is needed. Then anirvinna chesasa. So one has to get that faith and hope. So with that, one should neglect the desires proposed by the mind, material desires, and then and one should ensure that all the senses are engaged. So this way, one endeavors. If one endeavors, then slowly, shanai. So the mind gets controlled, and even if it gets controlled, still some part will be uncontrolled. So one has to again bring back yato nischalati manaschanchalam tato niyam yetat atmanyeva vashet. So that is told. So then after that, Krishna describes the conscious, means the situation when one reaches perfection. So we saw that how it is Vigata Kalmasha and the Brahma Samsparsham and all. And in the next class, we will see the further characteristics of this space. And then the discussion between Arjuna says it is very difficult to control mind and all. Then the further conversation goes. Okay, thank you very much for your participation. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Anchakalpata Krishna Pasana. Nam Pam Krishna Hare Krishna.